Hi guys. So there are many things that I found interesting in chapters 6 and 11 of Writing Analytically. And the first thing that really caught my eyes were page 138 of chapter 6 in Writing Analytically, which is the passage that says, "Attention is the main problem in interpretation." And when I first read this, I was like, well, why is interpretation the main problem in interpretation? Like, why is already structured mind or idea and a problem to interpreting a text? And then I continued reading the chapter, and in page 140, that's when a connection to my personal issue and that passage, the first passage that I read, really made an understanding to me. And so page 140, it says, "You are best off concentrating on what the thing itself communicates as opposed to what someone might have wanted it to communicate." And I wrote this in my essay, but one of the issues that I have is trying to figure out what the author is saying. What is the main message? What is the main point of view that the author has or is conveying in this text or in this writing? And having that mindset, because of what I thought from my high school experience of what a thesis statement is, which is a single fixate sentence that with 3 points that are all very similar, concluding to one idea, it makes me think, well, what is the main point of the text? And with that, I don't allow myself to really see the text on its own instead of what the author is trying to say. And my interpretation can only be so right, but can also be so wrong. And because of that, it creates the issue of not interpreting things correctly, going back to my first quote. Because of my already structured mindset of going into a paper, having planned out and structured what I'm going to write about. And usually it's one point that I might bring out throughout my entire text, and I'm really not interpreting what I'm writing and what I'm getting from the ideas that are being told to me, which goes against Writing Analytical's idea of expanding your thought and expanding your form of thinking, because that is what analysis is defined. It is defined as thinking, as the way you think. And going to chapter 11, brought to my surprise that thesis is actually an idea, because I never really thought about it that way. I never thought about it as just one idea. I kind of just thought about it as the idea of the whole text. So the fact that there could be more than one idea in a thesis, well, in theses, I guess, in your essay, kind of really brought it to my surprise. And I know this because Writing Analytically in chapter 11 actually says that good theses have tension, and tension talks about a disagreement or an opposition between a previous claim and the claim that you're going to bring up. And so the fact that you can actually talk about there being oppositions or something being a little bit off, well, not off, but going through to another side of what you already talked about, but being supportive of both of them in a thesis actually very surprising to me, because the idea of, I believe it's called a strong man, it's in page 230, they talk about this, which is the idea where you position yourself to either go for or side with or go against the author's claim. And that is kind of what I was taught. I was taught to either side with or go against the author's claim. So I never really got the feel of arguing both sides and using my evidence as a form of making those claims. So that's something that I found really interesting. Another thing that I found really interesting was that throughout this entire passage, entire chapter 11, hypothesis and thesis were both compared. They were both seen as almost the same thing or similar things, because hypothesis is a theory that is tested through the evidence that you find, and they are saying that this is very much the same thing, that it is an idea that you come up with, but through the evidence of the text you make more ideas and you evolve it from that. And so it was actually kind of alerting to me that, not alerting, but kind of brought up to my surprise that in page 236, a professor of biology named Bruce Reitman says that he tries to avoid the term hypothesis because he thinks that the false sense that scientists always start with an idea about how something works, when this is not the case. Some of the best science has actually come from observation. So the fact that he says that he doesn't like the idea of thesis and hypothesis being viewed as the same thing, because many times people interpret this as already knowing what they're being talked about, and he's saying that thesis is not like that. Just like the rest of writing analytically, they all say that really thesis is starting with a very general idea, and then with the evidence you construct more ideas that are more specific and in-depth with everything that the author is trying to convey. And you do that through observation, he's saying, because the more you observe a text, the more you pick out all the evidence that is being told out to you, and in effect you are making more claims and evolving your thesis statement. So yeah, that's pretty much it.